What better way to start the new year than with the beginning of a 6-part sermon series exploring our Unitarian Universalist sources. And I'm serious about that. In our Unitarian Universalist Association bylaws, we have both our 7 principles and our 6 sources. And you've often heard me talking about our 7 principles. And some of you may be able to name a few, or I think I remember someone who named all 7. Yeah, there she is, yep. Crystal did, yeah. But and our principles are a statement of covenant or promise among congregations, and they seek to guide us both corporately and individually in how we will be in the world. On the other hand, our sources are a statement of our theological grounding, a strong and beautifully poetic statement and reminder of the theological diversity that is encompassed by our faith. Our sources are how we answer the question, on what authority do we base our religion? They're part of our living tradition, first adopted in 1984 and then amended in 1995 as we added our 6th source. So that's why we call ourselves a living tradition. Even though we have roots that go very old and very deep, we keep asking ourselves, is this right? Does this speak? And so we are a living tradition. Believe it or not, I've sometimes heard Unitarian Universalists speak dismissively of theological traditions that we claim as our very own sources. As we come together on Sundays and beyond, we need to remember that each of us brings our own religious and cultural background, our own journey of discovery as religious people, and hopefully our joy in having found this congregation and Unitarian Universalism. We have differences that are real and substantive between us. We need to engage with exactly what does it mean to be a Unitarian Universalist Christian? What does it mean to be a Unitarian Universalist who is culturally Jewish? What does it mean to be a Unitarian Universalist humanist, atheist, agnostic? We come in lots of flavors, folks. And if we shy away from this discussion, then we set ourselves up to be lacking in the tools that it takes for us to be in real community with one another. I guarantee you that if I and we are doing this thing right, then there should be times where you feel uncomfortable. Has anyone felt uncomfortable with maybe language or other things theologically? Raise your hand. Yes, all right. We're doing it right. That's okay, and that's actually where the great beauty of our faith lies. That we remain open to listening and exploring and to understanding, because this is the way that we grow spiritually, individually, and as a congregation. Yet even though many of us are busy doing things to keep our beloved live oak vibrant, it's important that we acknowledge the richness of our theological diversity and remember that we all share a common ground of beliefs and understandings that bring us together. And I don't know about you, but sometimes when I come into our congregation, there's almost a sense of breathing a sigh of relief that we're here together, because there's this sense that we come together from lots of different places, but together we share this common ground. As Rebecca Parker put it so eloquently, you can see this world as tragically flawed, wondrously gifted, or all the above, but you cannot hold the view that salvation is to be found solely beyond this world. in some life after death or world other than this world, while remaining open to the mysteries that may be revealed beyond the grave or in realms beyond what we know at present. Unitarian Universalism is clear that the ultimate is present here and now and can be grasped and experienced, even if only partially, within this limited frame of our mortal existence. We hold that this world, this life, these bodies are the dwelling place of the sacred. Within these theological boundaries, there is room for tremendous variety, diversity, and yes, dissent. But there is also a defining focus, a devotion to the flourishing of life. And this is our common ground, devotion to the flourishing of life. And from this common ground, we need to be in integrity with each of our sources, each aspect of our theological inheritance and our living tradition. Instead of watering everything down to the theological least common denominator so that no one gets offended, we each need to have an understanding of the richness of our faith and be okay that sometimes it will speak to us directly, and other times we might find ourselves saying, well, that's not the way I would put it. And I admit that there are times in greater Unitarian Universalist worship when I'm in perhaps ministers' gatherings or national events where I'm not fully comfortable and I don't feel that the language used is mine or the theology expressed isn't what I would personally claim. But I do feel that this is a challenge that we're ready for. This wonderful faith of ours invites us to come together and use language that may stretch or challenge us a bit, to see the world through a different perspective than our own, and to revel in the fact that this mystery of life can be experienced by all, regardless of how we name it. So today we turn our attention to the first source of our faith that talks about this mystery, one of the common grounds of our faith. And I've listed in the quote section of your orders of service, if everyone wants to grab it, I've listed our first tradition, and I'm actually going to have us read it together. Does everyone see where it is? It's the top part of the inside first page. The living tradition we share draws from many sources. Our first source is direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces that create and uphold life. That's a mouthful. But today I'm going to try to break it down a bit, so instead of being just words on paper, it becomes more alive. So we take the first part, direct experience. This concept of direct experience is a legacy of both the Radical Reformation, which insisted on the primacy of personal experience, and transcendentalists of the 19th century. It was the great Unitarian minister, who we call the father of Unitarianism, William Ellery Channing, who gave the first official utterances to the nascent stream of transcendentalist thought, when in 1828 he said, "The idea of God is the idea of our own spiritual nature, purified and enlarged to infinity. In ourselves are elements of the divinity." And so for the transcendentalists such as Emerson and Thoreau, these encounters with the holy, encounters that were full of wonder and awe and mystery, they could happen in nature, they could happen in solitary contemplation, in music, or even in human conversation. They were concerned with the cultivation of the soul through whatever practice brought the individual into awareness of this experience of transcendence. Transcendentalism stressed that we do not need clergy, sorry about that, or even religion itself to mediate our experience of the sacred or to discover meaning and truth. Rather, it's the right and the duty of each person to approach the holy directly and to experience it directly through the creation. Transcendentalists, they kept the theism, so they still had the God language, but they rejected the supernaturalism for a more natural theology, which still inspires many of us. And it's clear to see why Unitarian Universalists of today have such a strong bent toward the primacy of the individual. So our first authority is our own personal and direct experience of truth, what we feel in our own hearts, the struggles and the joys that we live through. These are the most important authority. But it's risky to depend only on our experience. Believe it or not, sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we go astray. But our trust is that when we live our religious lives in community, as part of a congregation like this where everyone is seeking to live according to their own personal and direct experience of the truth, we all help each other. We keep each other honest. And the starting point is always what we feel and believe in our deepest self to be true, because it has come out of our life and our experience. My many years with the Friends, with the Quakers, taught me speak our own truth to power, direct experience. The next piece of our first source says that we use this process of the direct experience to encounter transcending mystery and wonder. And that sounds a little grandiose. Transcendent experiences of mystery and wonder can be those relatively uncommon, profound experiences. People express them by saying, I have been touched by the hand of God, and other such language. Such intensely transformative experiences may happen only to a few of us, but they do happen. And I know that because some of you have shared with me such profoundly transcendent experiences. And our former Unitarian Universalist Association president, Bill Sinkford, recounted an experience of such a transformative and transcendent experience as his son's life hung in the balance. And here's what he wrote. Late in the evening, I felt the hands of a loving universe reaching out to hold, the hands of God, the spirit of life. The name was unimportant. I knew that those hands would be there to hold me whatever the morning brought. And I knew, though I cannot tell you how, that those hands were holding my son as well. I knew that I did not have to walk that path alone, that there is a love that has never broken faith with us and never will. And perhaps you have experienced such an intense and transformational experience. But fortunately, transcendent experiences of mystery and wonder can also be the more relatively common experience of awe and wonder that are available to each and every one of us every day. Those moments that renew our souls, open our hearts. The image on the screen today comes from one form of experiencing the transcending mystery and wonder that's close to my soul, ikebana, the Japanese art of flower arrangement that seeks to bring nature and humans closer together. I studied ikebana and tried my hand at it for many years, and I still find a sense of peace and inspiration and awe in many ikebana offerings. The move to wonder is essentially the first step in our religious lives. It is that in us that steps away for a moment from the myriad of details of our daily lives and instead reaches for that vision of a whole that opens us to a sense of larger context in which we live. Wonder and openness and paying attention are attributes that allow us to experience this transcendent. I want to say a quick word here about science and rationalism. This isn't a zero-sum game. Our sense of mystery and wonder is not in opposition to science and knowledge, but it directly inspires it and seeks to deepen and widen that sense. Many scientists are actually motivated by this deep sense of mystery and wonder and paying attention to what's going on in the world. Science and religion are not opposites, nor are they mutually exclusive. To be religious in a deep sense simply means to be able to sense the sacred in all things, a something more, the possibility to explore something beyond what meets the eye, a holy curiosity. The Reverend Forest Church said that when rationalism negates or displaces mystery, our imagination and our sense of wonder are just as likely to die as are the gods. Trying to articulate an experience of this transcending mystery and wonder is slippery and inexact for any of you who have tried to put into words. William James says that the characteristic of mystical experience is precisely that it resists being put into words. The feeling of greeting the rising sun that I spoke of earlier with the children here, that sense of energy and peace and awe in wild places. Some of us feel this when we're with people we love or listening to or creating music or doing something we love to do. And sometimes it comes from silence. As Unitarian Universalists, we experience mystery throughout our lives. Death happens. Birth happens. Love happens, illness happens, beauty happens, failure happens, pain happens, joy happens, forgiveness happens. All these things, the stuff of life, happen, and with each one we encounter another face of the mystery. And through it all, it is our sense of connection, our sense of being part of this interdependent web of love that holds us and sustains us. And I turn to our poets who have a better way for words to express this. This is the poet Denise Levertov. Intricate and untraceable, weaving and interweaving, dark strand with light, designed beyond all spiderly contrivance, to link, not to entrap, elation, grief, joy, contrition, entwined, shaking, changing, forever forming, transforming, all praise to the great web. This experience of the transcending mystery and wonder is affirmed in all cultures. Everywhere and every time human beings have had these moments of uplifting and life-changing experiences. And some have tried to talk about it. Our poets maybe capture it the best. And some of their accounts have been so compelling that they've been preserved for hundreds and thousands of years, many in the sacred scriptures of the world. Stories of Moses encountering God on Mount Sinai, Black Elk receiving his great vision of the sacred hoop, Elijah hearing the still small voice after the wind and earthquake and fire, Mohammed receiving the testimony of the angel Gabriel, Arjuna encountering the cosmic manifestation of Krishna, the Buddha achieving enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, and the list goes on. And so we now arrive at the final part of our first source, where we affirm the direct experience of the transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces that create and uphold life. Now, this is beautiful and inspirational language, but it's also the part of our first source that I personally struggle with a bit. As Unitarian Universalists, we've been challenged by others who see us as a bit of Pollyannas, of being overly optimistic, of not acknowledging that evil and destruction exist in the world. And when I look at the words, an openness to the forces that create and uphold life, I feel perhaps that this critique might be justified. Perhaps part of life, part of this first source of our faith, ought to also acknowledge an openness to the forces that are destructive in life. I'm probably radical for saying that, but I really feel that sometimes the destructive forces are the very catalyst for regeneration. Nature itself is a great teacher in this. Fires, floods, earthquakes, the cycle of life and death and rebirth. And surely humankind has seen its share of self-made destruction. We must acknowledge the wholeness of all life, the destruction and the creation of life. Or, as we can say in this time of renewed Star Wars focus, we must acknowledge both sides of the Force. So again, we circle back to the openness and attentiveness to life, paying attention to life and the miracle within the mystery that it truly is, knowing that the ultimate is present here and now and can be grasped, even if only partially, within our mortal existence. Rabbi Michael Lerner has said that it is the reality of human experience that at our core we respond to the universe with a sense of awe and wonder. We are dazzled by the incomprehensible fact of being itself. So in other words, we don't seek for the sacred and the mystery and the wonder. It's part of our DNA, part of our being, the essence of our humanness. Mystery and wonder found not just in a newborn's eyes, but in everyone's eyes, and indeed in the eyes of all creatures. Mystery and wonder found on this earth and beyond. We are all linked in the web. Let this understanding of connectedness sink deep into our souls, because this universe is richer than we can imagine. Life is more mysterious than we can find answers for. Let us bow our heads to one another as free seekers and fellow travelers on this road, each open to wonder, each expressing it when it's found in words and concepts that may only hint at what we know in our souls. And we don't offer interpretation, and we don't insist on a common understanding. And that is perhaps one of the greatest gifts Unitarian Universalism offers to the world. May each of you be blessed and be awake to the blessing of the ongoing direct experience of this transforming mystery and wonder in all of our lives. Amen. Namaste. And may the Force be with you. For our benediction. Our faith, this congregation, is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences and beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. Let us pause in silent witness to that unity. And now we extinguish the memorial candle. The warmth will be gone and the light will cease to shine. But what of the brightness it has given to our lives? The light still shines on, though it is no longer part of this candle. The light is now part of our cosmos, part of that unity that binds us forever together. And so it is with the influence of Mary Gervais, in whose memory this candle has burned. In mystery we are born, in mystery we live, in mystery we die. May the blessings of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you, and may love's presence illuminate your heart now and forevermore. So be it. Amen. Blessed be. And now, as we extinguish the light of our communal chalice, our service truly begins. And the congregation responds.